Hi, this is Randall with Carter Hill Honeybees. Today is Wednesday, May the 19th, 2021. The swarm season's pretty much done come and gone here where I'm at. So things have slowed down a little bit for me. And I want to take this opportunity to show you how I look for swarms when you come in during swarm season inspecting swarms. Sometimes swarms will settle in thick cover and they can be hard to spot, and I'll show you a couple of tricks I've learned over the years to help you seek out and find those mysterious hidden swarms that can hit your outyards. In the first few years of my beekeeping career, I would literally go around to my 5 or 6 yards every day and look for swarms, and this is how I learned this technique. So I'm not on the road right now, even though I'm holding the camera. I'm driving on private property into one of my yards. So I just kind of want to show you from the driver's seat, you know, kind of what I look for when I first get out and how I thoroughly search my yards when I get to the destination. Now, my beekeeping career, I've seen swarms issue as early as 9 o'clock in the morning and as late as about 5 o'clock in the evening, but the vast majority of them are going to occur probably between 10:30 a.m. and about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So when I get to a yard like this, a lot of times I'll spot easy to spot swarms a long ways before I get here if I can see it, but I just start by getting out and looking the obvious places. I've caught a swarm right up there a week or so ago, and a few years ago I caught one in the oak tree right there. I've never caught any down there, and then I caught the one a week or so back right there in that pear tree. I did a video on that. Well, I just had a kamikaze bee fly and sting me right on the eyebrow. So I guess I should have put my veil on to start with, so now I will put my veil on. If I hadn't had my glasses on, I'd have got stung on the eyelid right then. So that goes to show you, you never know. I'm 30 yards from that hive, and it just flew up here and got me for no reason at all. I hadn't been down here in 4 or 5 days, but who knows, that's just part of beekeeping. I still love it. Well, anyway, back to the swarm business. So I'm just looking at all the obvious places. Take a few seconds, and if you've never just stood and looked at a swarm, how they work, you know, they're going to send foragers and stuff out looking for places. They may even be gathering nectar and stuff to sustain the swarm. Well, you want to kind of get a picture of that in your mind, how the bees are flying to and from a swarm. Is very similar to what you're going to see at the colony entrance. So just kind of keep in mind, you know, right there's kind of one we're looking at. And that's kind of the flight level you might see out of a swarm. So if you're looking at a hive you suspect it may have swarmed, but you don't see nothing, no matter where you've looked. And I've eliminated the pretty much obvious places and took a few seconds. Then I'm going to start looking in thicker cover. And I have found over the years that probably 10-20% of the swarms are settle in thick cover, kind of like that right there. That's strange. I put my veil on, none of them offered to attack me at all. Huh? So anyway, keeping that entrance activity and how you see bees going to and from the swarm, you know, if you can position yourself in such a manner that you can take advantage of the sunlight to where you can see the light reflecting off the bees as they fly by, and then you just have that picture in mind and you look in all the dark spots and you look for bees coming and going to an area that is dark or kind of secluded, or maybe just for some reason you see a little bee activity around a thick place. So if you do see that, you know, and I don't expect to see a swarm in here today, but I'm just using this for an example. Let's just say I've seen some, you know, 5 or 10 bees flying around over here. Well, I want to come over here and check this out. I couldn't see this from my truck up there. So I may come down here and, you know, they might be a swarm hanging right there, or a swarm, you know, in a bush like that right there, and they could even be on the ground in a place like that. And always be aware that swarms can be on the ground. I've probably caught 5 or 6 of them in my career. Anywhere within 100 yards of that beehive, or even 150, is suspect. Although I'll say, in my experience, probably 90-95% of them is going to settle within 25-30 yards of the parent colony. But you will have sometimes that will go further, and a few times I've seen a swarm come out and leave and never settle. So let's just say we've kind of eliminated that place. Well, there's another thick place over here. You know, I'm kind of looking in there. This is kind of the back side where we're just looking. And here's another little island of trees. I'm going to carefully look at this. I'm going to look for bee activity. The trees between me and the sun, so if there's bees flying in and out on either side, I'll be able to see it. So I don't see nothing there. And then you'll move on to the next wad, and you just kind of, the biggest thing I use to find a swarm like that is looking for that bee flight and the light reflecting off those bee wings. But you'll be surprised at how many swarms that, if you take a couple extra minutes to do that and look a little more thoroughly, that you'll capture, that don't get away. Because a lot of times they're easy to catch. I've caught them I've had swarms settling stuff that thick right there in honeysuckles. It'd be like a fallen tree in there and they'd be settled on the trunk. I've had that happen a couple times. So being at a swarm of bees is generally going to be worth $80 to $120 or $30. It's worth a few minutes to walk around and check a little closer if you're having to go around or you're trying to hunt for swarms during swarm season. Another time to look, or during swarm season, it's still the spring of the year in this area, and you may have 3 or 4 days during swarm season. It's either been rainy, cold, or a combination of both, or windy. Bees can't fly. That first day that it's decently calm and above 60 degrees, you really need to pay attention, because the odds of you having a swarm that first good day after 3 or 4 days of non-flying weather during swarm season is probably 75-80%. The next day will be a decent chance too, but it'll be lower. That first day or two after, a weather front or whatever moves in and you've had a few days of non-flying weather is really, really prime time to look for swarms in your yards. And here's another yard that has some thick cover, and I'll kind of show you how I would search it. Now, I have had a swarm that I saw go way up here in this sweet gum tree, which I had 0 chance to get even with a scooping score. And had a swarm go up in this tree a few years ago, settled on the trunk. I actually let a friend of mine get it. I was working that day, but it was a pain to get. That's the only 2 places I know of swarms settling here. So I'm sure I've had some over the years to come and get away, and I never did see them. But it'll take a little bit more attention to detail on this tree line. But generally, based on my experience, they would tend to probably settle kind of low to the ground on some of these overhanging branches. Could even be right above the hive. And they could even be in some of these small trees out here. So you would definitely want to take a few moments and watch for that bee flight path, or bees going to and from bushes that look like they would be going to and from a hive. That's critical. Now, it's kind of clouded up a little bit and the sun's going down, so it's getting a little bit harder to see a swarm, to see bees flying. It's getting a little bit harder to use the sun to reflect off the bees' wings to make them easier to see, but still plenty of light that you can watch for bees swarming. So once again, I would try to look within 100 yards of the colony. So I've kind of come around the bend here and just kind of look up in this little cove and look for bee activity. They could be anywhere along the tree line there. Obviously I wouldn't see this without walking over here from where I parked right there. But it's worth it. You may come around here one day and there's a 2 or 3 gallon swarm hanging right there that would be perfectly easy to get, and that you would miss if you just sat right there and looked around. So I'm satisfied that this area is clear, and once again we're past swarm season pretty much, and I'm not expecting to see one in here, although anything is possible. So I would consider this side of the yard pretty much clear. I didn't see anything, none of the bushes, or no bees flying up. So I'm kind of walking right in front of the hives here and looking up in these trees, which I should be able to spot most of this area from the road. So next I'd want to pay attention to thick cover like that. Once it warms up and stays warm and everything greens out pretty good, the swarms tend to hide more. They like a shaded place a lot of times. So like on that vine right there would be a good place to look. Well, if you're out here, it'd be kind of hard to see, and you probably wouldn't see it unless you saw some bees flying in and out of there. And I would just simply kind of continue my way up this tree line, looking for the bees flying in and out of the bush here. You know, stop every few seconds and just kind of look and concentrate and look for the bees flying in and out. I've actually seen swarms in vines like that before, and I can tell you they're fun to get out when they get into vines like that. Real fun. So I'd see nothing there, and I'll kind of walk up. Now you get a little bit of opening right here, so you can kind of look up. Swarms that are up there will be pretty easy to see for the most part. But kind of what you're focusing on is what's down here low. If the swarm's up there, you just might as well wish them luck. You're not, unless they're on that limb right there, you're not going to get them, or you got a boom truck or something. But this thick cover, like I say, a lot of times, and sometimes you'll have them on a low hanging limb like this out that's pretty easy to see. And I would just continue up here for 60 or 80 yards and then take a minute or so to stare further down. And now up here the sun's behind me, so I can kind of see the bees better if they're flying in and out. So still don't see no bees. So I would assume that this yard's clear and that there's no swarms here at this yard. So by using a couple of yards here, I've kind of shown you how I used to would go around my yards every day and search for swarms in the springtime. And I would do this for about 5 weeks, and before I learned to reduce my swarming significantly, I'd put 4,000 or 5,000 miles on my vehicle in the month of April alone. So now I don't have to do that anymore. I think I wound up having 4 of my colonies swarm this spring, my production colonies other than the ones I have there at home. I wound up catching 4 swarms out of honey production colonies, and I got 39 left, so that comes out to around 92, 93%, just rough guessing off the top of my head. So, and that's about what I expect. You're not going to have 100% stoppage of your swarming, so I can live with 85, 90% and not having to run my vehicle to death and manage my bees at home to swarm. Well, anyway, I just wanted to share this strategy with you, how I search my bee yards for swarms, and this can work if you have bees at home. Now, if you have an open yard that you have no thick cover like this, you shouldn't have any issues. Just always remember to look for swarms on the ground as well. Well, I hope some of this information of my experience helps you out. Took a sting on the eyebrow to make this video, but this no problem. I'm proud to do it. This is part of the game. I still love it. Well, I appreciate you for joining me for this video today. We'll see you next time.